Welcome back. This is As It Happens here on eNCA. My guests tonight are eNCA's Xoli Mngambi and political analyst Xolani Dube. We're discussing the ANC and its seeming inability to self-correct and its internal democratic processes and how they've been under challenge over the last few months. So, Xoli, at the conference, one of the things that came out of the conference in December 2017 was that, you know, as best as possible, they would avert the situation of that Xolani was talking to just before the break, of members rushing to the courts by setting up a dispute resolution committee. And this has been put to practice. So to their credit, the ANC leadership did not waste time. They are applying this, but it seems it's also in vain.
Let me use the case as an example. Jesse Duarte was leading the dispute resolution committee there. What has happened? That conference was meant to sit, and it was interdicted by a court on the version of members who are saying that the processes leading up to the conference were not up to scratch. You go back to the Eastern Cape, the Ndebele Appeals Committee or team. That committee was propped up or backed up by the SG's office in terms of supporting it technically and also giving it access to documentation, and also they were given carte blanche to say, go to the 8 regions of the ANC and talk to witnesses, talk to all members who were aggrieved, and of course the other side. You come back today, you listen to the chairperson of the ANC in the Eastern Cape, Oscar Mabuyane, who completely rubbishes this report as being flawed and that it was incoherent and that it only interviewed 10% out of the majority 90% of people who participated in that conference. So in essence, here's an internal committee or team that is put together to solve a particular problem. Is there something to be said about perhaps the integrity of the national leadership of the ANC? Because how is it that they are not the final word when it comes to these disputed conferences, whether it be a regional level or at provincial level? I mean, look at how the KZN, how messy that attempted conference or attempt at holding a conference was. Gwede Mantashe standing right there at the pulpit, and he's told, you're not going to address here because we want this conference to sit. And what does he stand up and say? He says, if this conference is a conference of ANC delegates, then I will be allowed to speak here. But if it's a conference of a faction, I will not be allowed to speak here. Did he speak at that conference? No, he had to leave.
Xolani, when you were watching the scenes that Xoli just described in terms of what happened at that ANC, at that attempt to hold a provincial conference, what did you come away with from that statement that says, if this is a conference of ANC branches, where Gwede Mantashe says that, then I will be allowed to speak, but if it's a conference of factions, then I won't be allowed to speak. What did you come away with in terms of the answer? Was it a conference of branches, a conference of factions that they were attempting to stage?
Look, the person who was uttering such statement that if it is a conference of branches, he's going to talk, but if the conference of a faction, fine, he's not going to talk. Look how he ascended to such a position of being a secretary, as well to be the chairperson of the ANC. It was through factional means. And so one is not supposed to be surprised when we say the chicken are coming home to roost. And so I think the ANC is divided into two. And Gwede Mantashe, your Cyril Ramaphosa, and all of them, they know to which camp they belong. And therefore, they are not going to heal the ANC because in our eyes, they can't fool us. We know where do they belong. And so you can't be elected by a particular faction and think that the other faction is going to warm up to you if that particular faction is a majority in a certain region or in a particular province. And so they are a product of factionalism. And so I think factionalism in the ANC is what is going to destroy it to non-existence from now on.
So how do they avert that scenario that you just painted then, Xolani? What's the way out of this gridlock of factions? Even though factions may likely continue to exist, what are the mechanisms that they can sort of put it into practice to make sure that, you know, the manifestation of factions doesn't stymie the organization in the way that it seems to be doing right now?
Look, if the factions or those who are belonging to factions are so arrogant, I think there is no remedy except that let them be at each other's throats until definitely they remove each other from the face of the ANC. And then let those who really care for the ANC, and after they've devoured each other, and let those who really love the ANC come and take the ANC, because I can assure you, there is no way to solve this problem, because those who belong to the Zuma camp are not going to leave the ANC. And those who belong to Cyril Ramaphosa's camp, they're not going to leave the ANC. And now, again, we have 2019. And who is going to campaign for those who are perceived to be in a camp of Cyril Ramaphosa? And let me give an example. Here in our province, if Sihle's faction or Sihle's group manage to win the conference, if the conference is going to take place, and then do you think the Mike Mabuya Kulu or the other faction group will go out and mobilize for Sihle to be in power? I don't think so. Whereas they can't even unite before the election. And so when there's so much at stake, what will make them to unite? I don't think that they will unite. And so the ANC is divided. I don't see the ANC in the near future become united. That's the reality.
Xoli?
Tulas, for me, what constantly confuses me about the ANC, particularly in these provinces where you have these disputes, why is it that the party is running away from deploying its veterans? These are people that they will happily say all the time that these are people who do not have any vested interest. They're not interested in positions. These are people that have the ANC's best interests at heart. Why not install them, therefore, at those as the interim leaders in those provinces that do not have a legitimate leadership for now, in order for those people to then prepare these warring factions to go into conference, but knowing that they're being prepared by people who have no vested interest. And I say this to us because I interviewed in KZN at this conference that was botched just a weekend ago. I interviewed Lawrence Dube, who successfully went to court to nullify the conference that had elected Sihle Zikalala. And I said to him, do you have a sense that we will see a legitimate outcome this weekend if indeed this conference does sit? And he said to me, my brother, I have a problem with the constitution of with the constituting of the interim structure, the provincial interim structure. You have people there who have vested interests, and therefore the process coming to conference will always be in dispute, because some are going to say you have put in people that are going to favor you in order to obviously make sure that the numbers favor you. Why is it that the ANC is not therefore allowing these veterans of the ANC to lead?
And we've not even touched on how, you know, these difficulties are manifesting in provinces, some of which were considered stable provinces, such as Gauteng. I was certainly, you know, surprised to find out this is happening now in Gauteng.
I'm shocked. And you saw those people, Senzo Mkhunu, attempting to address them. I believe that it's a grouping from Sidibeng.
Yeah, from West Rand that was picketing outside. Yeah.
There's another classical example. What is the common complaint? I said at the beginning of this conversation to us that it's the crying by members that they're being blocked from participating in the ANC because they are legitimate members, and they are those who obviously want to keep them out.
I want to give Xolani one quick final word then. Xolani, what does this say then about the need for a revamp of the membership system and also the electoral system of the ANC, which has been spoken about at conferences but is yet to be fully implemented? Your final take, very quickly.
Look, you know, the changes in the ANC, I don't think that can come through the existing leadership. I think the ANC members on the ground, they must have another way of dealing with their own issues. But if they are going to hope that the current existing leadership of the ANC will provide solution, trust me, they are the prisoners of hope, because it's not going to happen.
All right, Xolani Dube from the Xubera Institute, thank you so much for coming through at our Durban studios, and Xoli Mngambi in studio here with me, eNCA senior political journalist. And that brings us to the end of tonight's edition of As It Happens. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane.